Hello everyone, my name is Lowko and welcome to a best of 5 series of top level StarCraft 2. What I've got for you today is the 2 versus 2 February finals, where in game number 1 we find ourselves on a map called Undercurrent. Spawning right here, we have team, is this yellow and red? I thought we were playing on a mod that allowed the players to play under the exact same color scheme. Yeah, we have team red going up against team purple apparently, but spawning right here in the far top right, playing with the orange. God, I have to learn all of the colors now, man. It used to just be red versus blue. Now I have to know multiple colors? We're looking at MaxPax's main Nexus, the #1 Protoss on the planet. His ally, playing with the red SCVs. We have none other than Spirit. Their opponents, spawning in the bottom left corner of the map. First off, with the little polar bear in purple. We're looking at Clem's main command center, and Clem, of course, the current world champion of StarCraft 2. And he is joined by none other than Trigger. I heard that this series is an absolute banger, so we're gonna find out together exactly what the very best 2v2 players in the world can currently bring to us. Very excited for this one. I heard the series is very good, so I mean, as far as high-level 2v2 goes, this is still relatively unexplored territory in StarCraft 2, so big shout-out, of course, to uThermal for organizing these tournaments, because it's really fun, and I've been very much so enjoying it. And looking at the viewer numbers, it seems like a lot of you have also been really digging watching the 2 versus 2 meta develop. It's like a different game mode, right? It's like a different game almost entirely, but it's still a game we're all very comfortable with. This is as far as StarCraft players are willing to go out of their comfort zone, myself included. We get to watch StarCraft, but then in a slightly different form. You know what? It really does change the strategies a lot. We've been seeing a lot of Phoenix play, and I wonder if it's coincidence that we have like Terran and Protoss on both sides of the map. It seems like both teams are Terran Protoss. Not a lot of Zergs in 2v2 so far. I mean, last time around we had Serral playing Zerg together with his teammate Zhuge who was also playing Zerg. I wonder if that's the norm though, or just a little bit of coincidence. Either way, we have Spirit, Team Red right now, starting off with some Reapers as he's pumping out 2 of them at a time. He is expanding right now on the back of it. MaxPax has already been building that Nexus in the far top right-hand corner of the map, so it's going to be quite far away, difficult for the opponents to scout. Reapers right now, though, are joining in. SCV in a little bit of trouble, and it is indeed going to get sniped before that bunker will complete. Trigger, though, of course, also has been producing units, and that Stalker is going to be able to push this away with relative ease. And this is why I was wondering, what is even the point of going for a Reaper opener? Because generally you have some momentum, right? When you're going up against one player and, well, you kill their starting SCV that's building the bunker. You can keep pushing with the Reapers, but I'm not so sure exactly how useful this is going to be when you're playing 2v2. Stalker obviously now also joining in. That's MaxPax's unit. Okay, Reaper. Oh, that's cute. A lot of grenade damage. Not usually the way that the Reapers kill stuff. Maybe that was the plan, because now the Stalkers can start hurting quite a bit. Obviously, the rush distance, though, that's quite long as well on a map like this. I mean, Undercurrent is by no means the biggest 2v2 map, but it still takes a while for those units from the team in red to come across. Stalker on the high ground, holding its own. Stalker on the low ground is gonna go down, and it looks like the Adept will not be too far behind. Okay, so ultimately, this was a big commitment right here by Spirit. Right? He slowed down his early game to try and get this job done, and I don't believe he did enough damage. Yes, Clem did lose 4 SCVs, but he did obviously also make a bunker now. He can always salvage that a little bit later on. It's relatively minor damage here at this point, and I don't believe that making that many Reapers really has been justified. Now, Clem is going to follow up the aggression now of his own, so he's going to follow this up right here with Cloaked Banshees. MaxPax, though, however, already making Phoenixes at home. So with the new February tournament, there were some rule changes, specifically as far as resource sharing goes. So resource sharing is not quite as easy as it once used to be. It kicks in a little bit later on into the game. So you can't technically go for as many Phoenixes as early on, but I'm sure Stargates will still be extremely, extremely helpful. Now, Trigger has decided to build up a nice and early 3rd Nexus. He's trying to make that transition right now towards Blink, so that's interesting to me. We have MaxPax fully committing here to playing the Skytles army. He's going full Phoenixes. He's got an Oracle going around, getting some damage in, a little bit of scouting. But he's going full Phoenixes, whereas the other Protoss is going into Blink Stalker instead. You would imagine that the Blink Stalkers are going to be better than the Phoenixes, but so far we found out that especially on maps this big, right, in the 2v2 sphere, you can go across the map, deal a bunch of damage, and then still be back home in time as well to defend. Did that Cloak Banshee ever make its way across? Okay, it's right over here. Somehow it dodged everything. And maybe this Banshee is mostly just here to drag everything back home. MaxPax saw the little shimmer. He's got 2 control groups of Phoenixes already, but he is going to recall that Oracle to get the Revelation spell done. And now, well, the Phoenix will have 15 seconds to kill that Banshee. In the meantime, the other Banshee got intercepted in the middle of the map. So good multitasking right there by MaxPax. Once more showing why he is considered to be the highest ranked Protoss player. At the very least on the European server. Gotta be careful with my wording, dude. The Hero fans are gonna get upset. You know what? Hero is a phenomenal Protoss player too. And he certainly has been more successful over the years when it comes to, well, tournament performance. But these days, MaxPax has been just incredibly solid. Love watching MaxPax play. He's gonna go into a 3rd starport now, Stargate, and a +1 air weapons too. So he is really doubling down. He's basically playing mono battles. That's what we're doing. We're playing mono battles. He only gets to make one type of unit, and maybe he will make the transition towards a fleet beacon and maybe carriers and all that super late. But for now, it is going to be Phoenixes with Phoenixes, and then more Phoenixes into Phoenixes, and then maybe some Phoenixes as well to top it all off. So the nice thing with these Phoenixes, right, is that you can lift everything. Yeah, you can just keep lifting. You never really run out of energy. I think what you need to do here, as Clem, is go Ghosts. Now, I'm no 2v2 expert, but I feel like Ghosts would be by far the best thing to go for. Because these are still spellcasters. EMP still affects Phoenixes. We never really see that as a main focus, but I think it's something we should be seeing here in the very near future. He is now securing the 3rd base, so maybe he's waiting for those 6 gases to kick in, or maybe they just want to go for an attack right now. I want to believe in the strength of the Marine as well. Keep in mind, obviously, that the Phoenix energy is limited. Marines in red trying to join in as well, but they need to run away as soon as that siege tank is sieged up. There's indeed that fleet beacon coming up. Probably for now, though, it'll just be for the ranged upgrade, as we did have a stasis ward, triggering a bunch of those purple Marines. Can we make Ghosts? I feel like we need Ghosts. Like, you can do one EMP and then nullify the entire army of MaxPax. Sometimes I wonder if I'm losing my mind whenever I'm thinking of strategies that players should go for, and I just make the assumption that it's probably been tested and therefore not worthwhile. But in this case, 100%, dude. 100% is the way to go. Well, we have a transition now for Max. It is not going to be, well, unlimited Phoenixes. We will be getting the Phoenix ranged upgrade, but we have the Mama ship coming up. We're going to go into a Tempest as well, and we'll probably see more of those in just a moment. For now, the other players in the top right are mostly just trying to slow down this attack. Clem and Trigger, though, are expending all over. MaxPax has taken another base as well on the right. Spirit is just macroing up, doing what Spirit likes to do. Just get an awful lot of stuff going. And again, dude, those stasis wards have been incredibly worthwhile. Ranged upgrade is going to make those Phoenixes even better. Not very useful in 1v1. Very useful in team games, however. Anion Pulse Crystals, additional range for Phoenixes. It makes dodging those Archons 10 times easier. You know what? I mean, when there's this many units, just lift everything. Just lift everything. Yeah. Bro, do you even lift? That's what MaxPax is shouting right now. It's one of the things we have learned of MaxPax. He's a bit of a unknown individual in the StarCraft world. We know that he likes breaking bread. We found out about that a couple weeks ago. We know that apparently he likes to run. He also lifts. Maybe not in real life, but at the very least with the Phoenixes. He's a bread baker. Yeah, not too long ago, he was playing a best-of-7 series, and at like the middle of the final game of the series, he needed to pause the match because he needed to, and he said this in the in-game chat, he needed to take the bread out of the oven. Anyways, Trigger right now trying to come around the side, trying to get rid of Spirit siege tanks, who's desperately running back here with his Marines. Reinforcing flyers, though, showing up here for Max, who's trying to just lift everything. Just lift everything. Yeah, it's a perfect build, man. Just, if you can lift every unit, you can't lose the game. Next up, we find ourselves on Rohana. I'm trying to think of a reason why you wouldn't go ghosts. I kind of feel, and maybe this is not just me, but I kind of feel like most Terrans and Zerg players out there sometimes forget that Phoenixes are spellcasters. I have fallen into that trap myself as well, where I have played against them and I'm like, he can just keep lifting all my drones, man! And then at some point you realize, no, you can only lift with like a Phoenix once every 50 seconds or so, right? Like it's not actually that common that you can lift that many things at the same time. EMP will certainly still get rid of the energy. And yeah, it will turn them into paper planes. I guess they can be used to kill Medivacs. And obviously after about a minute, all of those Phoenixes will be useful once more. But a minute is a very long time. At least that's what she told me. Anyway. Now we find ourselves on Rohana. I'm trying to think if we have seen this map before in previous iterations of the 2v2 games. Probably, but doesn't ring a bell. Back in the day, we had a map called Ohana. And every single time Ohana was on in a tournament, people would immediately remind each other that the word Ohana meant family. This is Rohana, though, so I guess it is named after the... what's her name? Yeah, I guess it's Rohana, right? The racist grandma from the Legacy of the Void campaign? Remember her? The one that talks about those Terrans with their orifices? Remember Rohana? Pretty sure that's her. Yeah. But I don't know if it's spelled like that. I'm pretty sure there's... I think it's double N? Rohana. Rohana. I think it's Rohana, actually. I don't know what Rohana means. Maybe it means family. There's no way to know. Anyway. Double gate opening here for Trigger this time around, so he's going to go straight into that Adept production. MaxPax in the meantime on the other side of the map. So for a second he had walled himself in fully, but not the case. Just going for the single gate start for now. No proxy barracks or anything along those lines. Players have been pinging all over the map. Clem is thinking about going across. Man, rarely do you see the Reaper decked in pink. I know in the Warhammer world, they're going to be releasing the Emperor's Children this year. And they are Space Marines that also wear pink. You know what? I kind of like it. Very nice. Maybe this is an Emperor's Children, is what I'm trying to say. Bit of aggression here as well, though, from the players from the top left. MaxPax sending one of his Adepts across. There's a bit of a dance going on here. Problem is you don't want to lose too much time. In the meantime, an Adept goes down as well for Max, as Trigger was a bit more on point there with his control, and Clem also won the battle in the meantime on the other side of the map. Trigger once more going into the Blinky Boys. Do we have a Stargate? We certainly do. Why would you change a winning team? Bit of aggression here from the Adept. Mostly just some trade outs. Not the end of the world. I don't know if it's a good idea. Maybe they've got some different plan in mind. But it really seemed to me that the Phoenixes were incredibly nice. Although I say that, Clem has found a bit of an opportunity. Adept also just walks behind the bunker. Here's the Oracle, though. And there's no units available right now from the team from the bottom left to be shooting up with. And well, that means that this all will get cleaned up. Question is, at what cost? 4 SCVs, 1 probe? Not the end of the world here. For MaxPax in Spirit, but not quite as comfortable a start, I don't think, as in the previous game. Although now they can start laying down the law, and you know what? MaxPax is not going to play the same build twice. At least it doesn't look like it. He's going into a Twilight Council of his own now. Maybe he will be following this up then with... Oh, run away. He will be following this up then with, I guess, Blink. It's really the only thing that makes sense. A little bit of stasis ward bullying. You love to see it. Throwing down some revelations as well, just to be a bit of a prick. In the meantime, though, Max is also taking another base on the other side of the map. I feel like the Terrans are not really getting as much of a spotlight in 2v2. I'm always talking about the Protoss players, quite a bit about the Zerg players as well, and the Terrans are in the meantime making Marines and siege tanks. It's just that we've seen them, you know what, they've done that before. We've seen Terrans make Marines and siege tanks. a handful of times in the past. Marine Marauder Medevac tank turns out to be a good unit composition all the time. Yeah. It's kind of funny, actually. You can play that from Bronze League all the way to top-of-the-line Grandmaster, to 2v2, 4v4, 1v1 co-op. Unless you play Swan, then it's going to be difficult. But anyway. Men with gun. Very good tool. All right, well, this is a nice catch as well. Blink is now available, though, for Trigger, who was thinking about moving across. Siege tanks are sieging up. One in the back already available. This is going to push those units from the top left back home. Stasis! Ooh, he blinked forward to try and trigger it, but he was not quite... Hey, trigger. He was not quite expecting the exact positioning of it there, and he accidentally found himself getting stuck in there. Dark Templar on the back of this as well for Max. Ooh, dude, stasis wards are just so freaking good, man. Imagine not opening up Stargate. Seriously. Give me one reason to not open up Stargate. It is by far the best build in every situation. It's nice to see some variety, but man, a Stargate unit's good. Alright. Some aggression up towards the high ground now. This is a bit scary, but there are a lot of tanks. Yeah, Trigger and Clem are thinking about just pushing forward. They have to be careful, though. Dark Templar are on the horizon. There's another Stasis Ward, too! Oh, God, again. At least this will sort of force the siege tanks into a pretty good spot. It's going to be difficult for the players over here to reach it. You know what? This might just be a numbers game. The traits have been really nice with those Marines and Stalkers. Obviously, those early game engagements were not bad either. Spirit, of course, making command centers, because that's what he likes to do. And he's going to be paying the price for it right now. MaxPax still has an awful lot of army, but he needs the Dark Templar here to do a lot of damage. So here's one Invisible Man. Scan is going to be able to get rid of that. We need to send in another Invisible Man as soon as that scan wears off. MaxPax decides to recall the probes down towards the low ground. But that means that his natural is already gone. He did make a proxy gate as well on the other side of the map. Trigger's base might be in some trouble, but I'm pretty sure Trigger will gladly trade out a third base over the opponent's main. And MaxPax realizes that now too. GG is cold, and it seems like we're gonna get an evened up score. Take me down to the Emerald City where the grass is green and the LEDs are also green. This is not like Ultra Love where we have red LEDs and blue LEDs. Today we have green. I just realized this has become a very educational cast too, man. I am naming off all the colors. Yeah, you can watch this with the entire family. Yeah, if you have a toddler or whatever, when do people start learning colors? I have no idea. At what age do... At what age does somebody learn colors? I don't know. But anyway, you can definitely watch StarCraft with the whole family. Yeah, I talked about old ladies as well, so there you go. Maybe that's your thing. Maybe you're an old lady. Probably not. Actually, looking at my YouTube analytics, like 1% of my viewers are females over the age of 65. Shout out to you guys. It's probably my mom. Probably my mom watching everything. Shout out to my mom. She's probably watching a couple of them. The literal Brendas of the internet. Appreciate you guys. The vast majority of my viewers, though, are 18 to 35-year-old men from either Europe or the United States / Canada. That seems to be the vast majority. Anyway, not a lot of actual Brendas, but that's okay. That's okay. Maybe over time there will be more. We'll see. Cybercore coming up once more. Both sides of the map. Command center is now building as well. We do have a little bit of build order variety with a Marine now coming up here for Spirit. A Reaper in the meantime on the other side of the map. Factory coming up as well. It is interesting, actually. I don't really pay attention much to the YouTube analytics because I notice whenever I focus on it too much, I get sad. So it's probably best to not pay attention to them too much. I'm like, this video was awesome. I think people will really like it. And then I upload it And like half the people I expected to watch it end up watching it. I'm like, well, I don't know what I did wrong. I thought it was a really good video. Sometimes the algorithm give it, and then other days the algorithm take it away. So I don't really pay attention too much to the YouTube analytics, but occasionally I do look at like the demographics, and you can definitely see. Like I remember the audience of viewers being like of a similar age as myself. And that is still the case to this day. You know, it's not like Minecraft people or whatever. I'm assuming that most YouTubers that make Minecraft videos, they probably have an average viewer base that is like half their own age. You know what I mean? With StarCraft, everybody seems to be growing up together. Yeah. We're all getting old together. How hype is that? Once upon a time, we used to be the new game on the block. Now we're still out there. Now we also still exist. We're gonna go to a nursing home together one day. It's gonna be sick, dude. Looking forward to running a World of Warcraft guild. Everybody's welcome. Anyway, we're definitely playing Alliance though, so if you're Horde, tough luck. Anyway, we have some aggression going on too, because believe it or not, there is a video game happening in the background. Spirit trying to see if he can run in with a Hellion. Not quite going to happen. Adepts in the meantime, going around as well. They already got one of the kills here. Mostly just a bit of a dance. Once more, it's going to be a Stargate build here for MaxPax. I think it's the right call. Albeit one where you do have to survive for long enough, and that was their main problem, of course, in the previous game. Clem and Trigger just went across the map and hit him in the face. This is, by the way, a map that's been around for a very long time. I remember playing this map way back in the day. I don't play a whole lot of 2v2, but this map is old. I'm actually curious. Can I look this up? Emerald City? I'm assuming for 2v2 maps, there is a Wikipedia page as well. Yeah, this map has been introduced in 2018. That's like 2 years ago. That's crazy. Long time ago. Anyway, I am well familiar with this one. It's quite a tricky map, actually, to be aggressive on, as we apparently had an Oracle going down. Rocks over here as well. Just difficult in general to, like, move around the map. I don't actually like this map very much. I always feel like it's quite narrow. Like, there's only really one proper attack way, and just not a lot of fun to get around the map. It's good for some variety, of course, but this map always feels a bit... It feels old. That's because it is. Yeah. Generally, though, if you have maps where you can't really attack on, this is what happens, right? So it's similar to, say, for example, a King's Cove, or maybe even like an Abyssal Reef in 1v1. It's just hard to do anything. Meaning that, again, Phoenixes should be a good weapon of choice. These units are going to be able to, well, just fly around and ignore most of the terrain, which is incredibly beneficial. And on a map like this, it is quite difficult for the opponents to be aggressive then too, right? So you can probably get enough Phoenixes out to really get value out of them. Apparently, Clem has decided to fight fire with fire, rather than go into a bunch of Marines or whatever himself, or maybe even into Ghosts. He's already been pumping out the Vikings. Vikings can certainly win. It is a bit of a weird dynamic, though. Mass Phoenix production versus mass Viking production. Second factory coming up here as well for Clem. So, Clem already... he's going full Terran mech. That's what we're doing. I was wondering about that. He did make a tech lab right there on one of the barracks. But that's mostly, yep, to do the big switcheroo. I don't remember the last time I've seen Clem play mech. That's actually kind of nuts. When's the last time I've seen Clem play mech? I mean, I watch Clem a lot. Plays a lot of StarCraft, but generally he does not really go for anything but Marines. In the meantime, though, we do have Spirit playing a very conventional Terran army, so he is going to go and sit on his command centers. That's what he likes to do. Phoenix is trying to find an angle. Viking numbers at this point, so it's 14 Phoenixes versus 10 Vikings. Watch the skies, boys. One other audition that you can go for here, if it's too many Phoenixes, would be Liberators. It is a bit weird, Liberators versus Phoenixes. But if you can get a good engagement, Since Phoenixes tend to clump up a lot, and the player going for the Phoenixes tends to clump them up as much as they can. Did I see the little shimmer? No. You can deal with it that way. Just not very reliable. Maybe we can go into... I mean, Thors? Thors would also not be a bad choice. You need a siege tank backbone, I suppose, but Thors would also be an option here for Clem. They're settling in, by the way, for a big macro game. So I hope you got yourself a drink. I already ran out of coffee. Oh, man. No worries, though. I've got a feeling I've got caffeine in my blood right now. I think we're good. I think we're good. I slept like a solid 5 hours, but I feel like I slept a whole lot more than that. Caffeine overpowered confirmed. Anyway. Yeah, so Max is going straight into Skytles. In the meantime, on the other side of the map, we have that ground army still ongoing. Spirit now making a transition towards a fusion core, as well as a second starport of his own. So I wonder if he's gonna just go into mass liberator production. That's really the only thing that makes sense to me. But, I mean, it's 2v2. This is very much so unexplored territory at this level of StarCraft. So maybe after he YOLOs these Marines away, we're gonna go into battle cruisers? I would like to. Set a course. I think it would be cool. No, it's probably just going to be Liberators, though, with ranged. Maybe later on, you know? MaxPax's Phoenix fleet still going to town. Yeah, at this point, how many siege tanks do we have? We've got 7 siege tanks here for Spirit, which I think is enough to keep a very large army at bay. Trying to go in. Medevac still waiting for the perfect opportunity to boost into the main base of Clem. Clem is moving most of the things he's got around the map as well. He needs to be careful though, because obviously, well, Terran mech is strong, but not very mobile. So you need to be in the right position at the right time. Medevac's trying to inch a little closer. They're gonna idle in the middle of the leaves of the tree. Smart. That way they're practically invisible. And they've been hanging out there for a long time. Spirit is now actually maxed. He kind of needs to get rid of some supply here if he wants to get value out of all of this. Very little reason for him to be idling even more. Either way, Mama is out. And it looks like the players from the bottom right are taking the gold high ground. In the meantime, though, all of these other expansions on the left side of the map have already been they've already been accumulated here. So there's still one expansion MaxPax doesn't have. Other than that, they have effectively taken 50% of the map. So let's see. This is apparently when we commit with the medevac drop. It's a big drop that's been hanging out there for several minutes now. In the meantime, we do have an attempted push by Trigger, but this is exactly when Clem needs to go back home to deal with his own main base. He said, yo, Trigger, have a good one, buddy. Trigger is still going to attempt to see if he can move up there, but he's now effectively fighting 2 armies by himself, which in my mind is never going to happen. Ooh. Yeah, Mama's pretty powerful, dude. I'm surprised we don't see any ghosts. What am I missing? Why would ghosts not be, like, literally the best unit you can make? Yeah, anyways, MaxPax having a grand old time. MaxPax gets to do what every Protoss player loves to do, dude. I'm pretty sure this is what Protoss players dream of every night. They dream of making infinite Phoenixes, flying into the base, lifting up everything, full-on flyby, making the transition towards the mothership, into Tempest, into carriers. This is the comfort zone. This is what I believe Protoss players like to do on the Friday afternoon, you know? Crack open a cold one, hang back, play with one hand on the mouse. Cruise ahead. This is a pretty easy army to control in the end. I mean, the Phoenix is not so much, but everything else. It gets more comfortable over time as we have another medevac drop for... God, this is so cursed. For Spirit. I hate this very much. Seeing SCVs mining out of an assimilator. I'm turning into Rohana too, okay? Ooh, getting the armory upgrades actually would be really nice. bunch of Vikings are going to prevent this from really moving anywhere. Those Marines are gonna get traded out. That'll be the end of all of that. Okay, so when it comes to army value, yeah, so army value here is starting to look pretty ridiculous for MaxPax and Spirit. Spirit is currently not maxed. Not like Pax, who is MaxPax, but we do have a bunch of units coming in. So when he does, their army is going to be significantly better, although the storms here from Trigger are extremely good. The Viking war up in the air, getting a lot of damage in too. Siege tanks on the high ground, preventing the ground army from moving in. Man, what a war. This is starting to look more like Command and Conquer the further we move along, man. Actually insane. Whoa. We have a dozen Dark Templar moving in. Oh, brutal. In the meantime, there's a fight happening over here too, with more and more troops trying to hit each other in the face. It's so difficult though for Trigger and Clem to really find an opportunity, right? Like they're trying to see if they can fight, but MaxPax and Spirit have their bases locked up extremely nicely, and the value they're getting with these attacks is just insane. Resources lost at this point, I mean, we don't have exact values, but this is looking pretty darn good to me. If you are the players in red, although obviously there's been a lot of economy here too. Now I say that, Spirit just lost one of the command centers, as Trigger does hit his opponent here with those Dank Templar. Fight over in the far top right. This is that very claustrophobic area of the map. A lot of these alley points are extremely tight, and it's not easy to retreat. Maybe you should actually recall here as Trigger, because a lot of those units are going to have a hard time getting away. Siege tanks here scrambling in this direction as Clem is trying to save his ally. Still though, all of the interceptors were already deployed, so you can actually fight reasonably nicely. Viking count here looking quite good. 21 still up in the air. How many does he need though to really shut down those carriers? I think he needs more. I don't think he's good enough for that. Now the siege tanks are going to be next. Clem indeed takes a tremendous amount of damage, and MaxPax confidently dominates the skies. Storm now coming up as well for the player from Denmark. Command center falls. Clem is not going to be able to keep this one around much longer either, if I'm not mistaken. We have a command center and a nexus trying to exist in the same location at the same time. I don't know if it's possible, but it does look a little bit cursed. Well, it looks like the nexus is going to be sooner than the command center, so at least that debate will get solved. In the meantime, though, a lot of Stalkers and Vikings did just pop out of their production facilities. I wonder if this is an overextension by MaxPax. Doesn't look like it. He does have Storm now as well. One properly landed Storm on those clumped up Vikings would be amazing. And still, we haven't seen any Vikings accompanied by Ghost. Like, we need Ghost here, man. EMP is just so incredibly good against everything MaxPax. I feel like MaxPax is not being countered very much at all. They're very focused on trying to keep Spirit small, and that has been achieved. Spirit now only is sitting at 70 supply. And I guess once he is down, you can do a 2v1 against MaxPax? I guess that's the plan. High Templar need to be careful, though. Spirit obviously has 1 million command centers. He's got about as many command centers as he has supply. Only a slight exaggeration, but he does need to be cautious here that he does not completely run dry. Dark Templar just being an absolute nuisance. At least there's scans available for days. Trigger has actually been very good in that department. He's just been playing this like a jerk. Okay. Yeah, Trigger actually is playing full ground toss, which is curious. Yep, more and more Stalkers getting warped in. Like a very mobile army now. Viking count still looking good. Revelation also does land, but here's more invisible men. Crotal's taking the role of the Terran for infinite base harass. Usually what Terrans like to do. Why did we not kill the Nexus? The Dark Templar could have easily done it. I guess he wants to get back for more a little bit later. In the meantime, we have Stalkers at the bottom of the map too. Normally it's Zergs or Terrans that do this job, but Trigger is showing us that, well, you know what? Protoss is perfectly capable of it too. And while I am not really minding MaxPax's situation in this game much, his ally spot is not nearly as good. And ultimately, this is a team game. You can't really be fighting 2 armies by yourself, can you? Well, MaxPax is going to go ahead and give it a shot. Currently, obviously, the players in blue are split up, but they can go home very rapidly. Everybody except for the Dark Templar, they are going to be moving in once more. Aggressive blink forward. Mothership goes down. Carriers are getting tapped one at a time. Vikings are joining in the fray as well. There's the High Templar. There's a couple of them here too now coming in from the high ground. Storms galore as they even storm themselves. It's a little too aggressive, Max. GG gets cold. And it is indeed going to be a 2-1 advantage for Clem and Trigger. Reclamation is going to be the 4th game in this best of 5 series. And a match point right now for Trigger and Clem. Trigger with the relentless harassment in that previous game. I feel like once he started going, he just never stopped, right? Like he just... he just started dealing damage and he's like, well, let me just add more Dark Templar and then more Zealots and more Stalkers. Clem was mostly just there holding on. Trigger was the one hitting his opponents in the face as much as possible. Hey, by the way, MaxPax and Spirit, why are we playing red and blue? Why are we... I don't think the players care much for the broadcast. Can you believe it? Not setting the official colors. It would be nice, actually, if, as an observer, you could change the colors of the players. I know you definitely can, by the way. For a lot of the official StarCraft 2 tournaments, the way that this is run, you oftentimes see players running with different skins, for example. Say it's like a Zerg versus Zerg, you will have one player playing with skin set A and then another player with skin set B, right? The players don't actually see those. So this is like a custom observer mod that gets added to games that changes some of the visual cues for the observer, but not for the players themselves, which I think is awesome. We don't really see a lot of skins in general in StarCraft 2, but I think for mirror matchups it makes sense. Pro gamers don't generally play with any skins on, other than maybe like building skins or a couple that they like. Cyril is known to play with like the classic Ultra, for example, or as he calls it, the Ultra. Anyway, once more, we have some aggression coming in as Clem and Trigger are moving in to try and see if they can deal a lot of damage here on the other side of the map. The Nova Ghost skin is another fan favorite, absolutely. Maybe we can do team names instead. Max Rit or Spear Packs. That sounds like a new flavor of bubblegum. Spear Packs. Anyway, Spear Packs has got an Oracle up in the air now. Risky. It would be nice, actually, if we had team names. I feel like team names is something that's desperately missing. Or at least like a word that is easy to pronounce. Yeah, Clem is already a 1-syllable, right? So that's already... It's just his name, by the way. I believe his name is Clement. And he is... or Clement, I guess they don't pronounce the last letter. Because it's French. How did they invent the last letter? Nobody knows. Either way, he just picked his name and removed the last syllable. Easy enough. It'd be nice, though, if we had team names. Do you think it's a good idea? We do seem to see similar teams now, actually. If you compare it to the first month, I believe these players were working together at the time as well. I don't think there's any rules as far as that goes. I'm pretty sure, like, you could have Cyril teaming up with Clem if you wanted to. Stalker's waiting in the mineral line already. There is, of course, also a shield battery set up over here, so Max is not going to be able to achieve much. But what this does allow him to do, if he wants to again, is go into that good old Phoenix transition. Not what's happening, though. He has decided that he is going to be the man with Blink. Same here for Trigger, who is not a fan at all of the Skytles part. So this is actually a big difference between this month and then last month's January's Championship 2. One sec. Had to take a sip of water. Last month, we saw Phoenixes like MaxPax has been playing in pretty much every single game. This time around, though, not so much the case. At least we have some build order variety as far as that goes. Now look at that. MaxPax is actually rushing out. Blink together with Dark Templar after opening up with Skytles. Huh. There's an hallucinated Phoenix, though, here for Trigger, and he sees it coming in from a mile away. Are we going to make any adjustments? Well, we already have a photon cannon building inside of the mineral line. And I would imagine Clem is also going to go into a good old engineering bay to build up some missile turrets. Let's see. Trigger on the low ground. Tries to take another base. Stalkers fighting Stalkers. Okay, nice little force fields there. Stasis, or shield battery rather, still useful here as well, as there is a stasis ward set up right now by MaxPax. There is always going to be stasis ward set up when MaxPax opens up with an Oracle. No surprise there at all. Okay. Maybe the team name should just be Oracle names. Yeah. Maxrit would be nice. Spearpax is pretty sick. Clem. Nah. Trigger's name is a little risky. We don't really know. Team names could get real awkward. Ooh, he's trying to lock on over here. Getting to one Cyclone. Gets a Stalker there on its way out. Dark Templar are not just going to be doubled down on, we are also going to go into the Shadow Strike. I always like that, you know? When players scout what the opponent has gone for and they decide, you know what? I'm not going to cancel. We are just going to double down. Always double down on your bad mistakes, guys. If there's one takeaway that you need to have from my content, double down on your mistakes. Well, here we go. Spirit and MaxPax are going to try and give that a shot. There's another command center building here for Clem. Marines, though, are just kind of tearing everything apart. Stalkers chasing down whatever they can. I find these fights in 2v2 very difficult to read. Just so much damage from every unit. A lot of chaos all over. Spirit and MaxPax, though, easily win that fight as Trigger just lost the vast majority of his units. Yeah, and they're thinking about hitting him some more. There's another Nexus not protected particularly well. There are a couple siege tanks, but the majority of them are not going to be within range. And if they want to get in range right now, Spirit is going to be able to get his siege tanks to fire at the opposing player's one. So this is certainly going to be another dead Nexus, and that indeed does happen. In the meantime, MaxPax is taking another base over here. He's already got that high ground secured. They're looking powerful. Have we even had any Dark Templar? Have there been any DTs anywhere? Don't think so. Oh, one. One Dark Templar. Another base. That one gets cancelled again, too. Trigger and Clem need another base soon. They're trying to secure expansions, but it's going to be really hard to achieve much. At this point, Spirit is thinking, yo, I can just take your army and then take out the base. MaxPax chasing this down. And it looks like, indeed, the ground army is actually super powerful. Maybe most of the Protoss players have been playing, well, good old Phoenixes. But maybe it's not actually the optimal way to play. Maybe on maps that are a bit more passive, it is the way to go. But on a map as aggressive as Reclamation, where you can actually hit the opponent pretty easily, it's a little different than our previous map. Now there's DTs, by the way, in the main base. Prism does snatch a bunch of them back up. Stalkers, okay, blink underneath Vikings. Big Marine drop now inside of the main base, too, as Spirit has decided to just elevator everything into Trigger's main base. Well, Trigger was the one harassing in the previous game. In this one, he is the one getting hit in the face repeatedly, over and over and over again. He's just not able to really take control of anything. He's awkwardly long-distance mining one of the expansions here from Clem. Yeah, he's getting a bit of money back that way, but Spirit and MaxPax are looking in control. MaxPax right now going around the site. More Dark Templar, more harassment. Reinforcing Terran units have also arrived, and they're thinking about, well, sending some more dudes into the main base of the Protoss. There are some siege tanks awkwardly trying to make their way up towards the main, but the way that this pathing works... yeah, no, Ghosts were put on a... or sorry, Archons were put on a diet in the most recent games. The most recent patch, but... actually, I think it was the one before that. Either way, they can now pass through that a little bit easier. Siege tanks, though, not so lucky, and that's exactly what Spirit is now abusing against the opponent. MaxPax is now also hitting the Terran player in purple. Right from the inside of their main base. GG gets cold, and that means we get a game number 5. And that game, it takes place on Crimson Research Lab. Final game in this finals. MaxPax and Spirit going for the faster expansions, whereas Clem and Trigger have decided to open up with some more aggression. So they're the ones in the driver's seat here in the earlier stages of the game. Clem opting to go for a delayed command center in favor of a faster factory. Whereas we have got a faster command center and a delayed factory on the other side of the map. Small deviations, but it certainly means that MaxPax and Spirit are gonna have to take, well, a bit of early game damage. Spirit already making a blind bunker though, which I like a lot. He needs to be very cautious. I like the shield battery here too. Yeah, he needs to be very cautious. They need to be very cautious that they don't really take any big damage early on. Stargate coming up here for Trigger. He'll be going into a couple of flyers. We haven't really seen him do that. Well, not at least in this series very much, but... okay. Ooh, Adept. Nice snipe. Nice snipe right there by Trigger, who's now going to settle for a bunch of probe kills as well. 2 probes, though, for 2 Adepts, and 1 Adept. Maybe it's okay. Yeah, I guess the trade over here is decent. The main problem, though, you run into is that obviously his Nexus is much later. So the fact that his Nexus is late doesn't justify opening up like this, right? So he did kill 5 probes. That's pretty good. MaxPax taking more of a beating there than you're hoping for. Clem also now finding a bit of an opportunity to snatch a few more SCV kills. Yeah, 3. Nice. Reaper into the main. This is, of course, all going to shut down. And those Reapers are just here to be a bit of a nuisance. But that is what Clem does very nicely, of course. He's very good at squeezing juice out of these early game troops. Trigger now going into a second Stargate too. So he will be going into the Phoenix production. And this will get scouted immediately, as this was also an Oracle build here by Max, who immediately was forced to recall. Now, what do you do when your opponent is making Phoenixes? 2 options. You stop making Phoenixes, or you double down. Those are the only things you can do. It looks to me like MaxPax wants to fight fire with fire, and hitting a supply block right now is not it, Max. Ooh, that's actually a big mistake. MaxPax human? Wait a second. Big supply block through. He starts up. This is terrible. When you're playing Phoenix Wars, hitting a supply block right now is probably the worst. Trigger is pumping out 2 of them at a time. He was already ahead in that department. He's now got 6 versus only 2 for Max. Obviously, it's 2v2, so it works out a bit differently than it would in a Protoss versus Protoss, but you need to have as many Phoenixes as possible. Obviously, in 2v2, you can also feed your ally a bunch of resources in just a moment, so that's also going to make a difference. MaxPax's Oracle asked for a recall, did not quite get it. As now Spirit has decided to start protecting some of these bases too. So we have some orange Terran units set up in every single mineral line. Trying to make sure, except for the main one. Look at that. So selfless from Spirit. I guess that base is difficult to attack, but... yeah, at this point he also gets confirmation. So, bit of a deviation here for the Protoss player. So we've got ourselves a 3rd Stargate added for Trigger. Fleet Beacon instead right here for MaxPax. So MaxPax wants to go for a faster ranged upgrade on the Phoenixes. Whereas Clem and Trigger are just going to be pumping out as many of those units as possible. Curious to see if they're going to be feeding resources as well to each other. Ultimately, the man with more Phoenixes will easily win the war, but do you also need 1 million Phoenixes in 2 versus 2? I like the handful of Vikings here. Marines are good, though. Men with... Oh, geez. Men with gun, really powerful. Siege tank, though, just destroyed 8 of them in one shell. Range coming up. Phoenixes will be able to take the opponent down at a bit more of a distance. But if it's up to Clem and Trigger right now, they're going to try and see if they can tighten the noose right here, right now. Difficult, though, because they're fighting up a ramp on the other side of the map. Okay. How do we decide, though? Like, I feel like the longer you delay this, the worse it's going to be. Fleet Beacon also coming up here for Trigger, so he's not just going fully all in with this. Okay, Phoenixes kind of fight each other, but this is when the ranged upgrade kicks in, and when we have the Marines accompanied by SCVs ready to soak up some damage. Critical hold right here for Spirit, and he does indeed get the job done with the ground troops. Aided, though, of course, by MaxPax's Phoenixes of his own. MaxPax right now still lagging behind a little bit, but with that ranged upgrade, he can start working on some of the opponent's units reasonably well. And you know what? MaxPax, after a supply block and a pretty significant deficit, has caught up in the Phoenix count very, very nicely. I think with this batch of Phoenixes right now finishing up, so you have 1, 2, and then a third one over here as well. I think, yep, the numbers have evened up. Impressive stuff right there by MaxPax, who indeed has managed to, yeah, once more pull ahead in that department. Didn't look so hot for him a couple minutes ago. This is once more totally fine. This time around, though, it's Spirit the one hitting a supply block. 3 SCVs working on 3 different supply depots. Maybe the players are getting a little bit tired. Ranged here. Already done. Mama! She'll be joining the battlefield in just a moment as well. Obviously a very nice addition when you are going into the Mass Phoenix Wars. Now, why in the world do we not have any ghosts? When do we see ghosts? Why would we not see ghosts? EMP just seems like such a no-brainer. What am I missing? Is there like a ghost agreement where everybody's like, no, we're afraid of ghosts. I check under my bed every night before I go to sleep, but then I realize ghosts are invisible, so I can't see them anyway, but I do it out of habit. Right? Like, why are we not making ghosts? We haven't seen a single ghost in any of the games. Big attack, though, coming in. This is a lovely push here by Spirit and Max, who are finding an opportunity to shoot the command center out of the sky. And there's another CC right here from Clem that is also gonna be forced to be cancelled. Phoenix is here in blue trying to chase all of this down, but difficult to really get much done. I think Spirit and Max have already got what they came for as the Marines try to evacuate on out of there. One of the medevacs, though, does go down. Siege Tank gets 7 kills just like that. There's Mama. Mama can no longer be abducted. Lucky, though, for them, there are no Vipers. Okay. Additional Stargates. So when you're engaged in a Stargate war, you need to make Stargates, okay? So we have Stargate number 4, 5, and 6 right now coming up. Oh, Mama's down. Mama is down. Excellent fights here for Spirit and Max. The siege tanks in blue have been incredibly helpful. Now the cloak gets activated on Marines once more. A little bit cursed. Mothership also falls here very rapidly. With this many Vikings and this many Phoenixes up in the air, it is really quite good here still, though, for the players in blue. Those Vikings are going to make it much easier to deal with the units up in the air. But it means that the Marines are going to have an easy time just destroying everything, right? So as long as Max can keep all of these units at bay, and as long as they can run circles around the siege tanks, they can just deal damage after damage after damage. Still, though, it's not really that clear of an advantage to me, because in a straight-up engagement, the Vikings are just so valuable. That's also why MaxPax is dancing around everything. He knows he can outrange the Vikings. If he stands and fights, he's going to be in some trouble. Carriers are, of course, also incredibly potent here. Spirit did, by the way, not finish off the Nexus, so the Nexus once more has some energy. Yeah. Okay, a couple of Vikings here in some trouble. You really have to make sure that these units are all grouped up together. Without them holding hands, they're going to be in a world of trouble. A drop over here would be fantastic. It seems like that's where MaxPax is headed right now. There's only a few siege tanks currently sieged up. Marines could certainly jump in and get some damage done. SCVs right now get lifted, though. Lovely run by here by Max. Or flyby, I guess. Here we go. This is what I was wondering. Spirit is going to indeed commit over here. He dropped on top of the siege tanks. Gets a bunch of carriers up in the air too. He wanted the Nexus, but he's gonna get a lot more than what he's bargained for. Nexus will still end up going down. In the meantime, those Phoenixes in red have swooped into the main base. And Clem is gonna get bullied some more. Those SCVs are just in a world of trouble. Excellent gameplay here. So MaxPax and Spirit are basically playing a strategy where they can never win a straight-up fight, but they're not planning on ever fighting straight up. They're just going around the flanks, outmaneuvering and outmobilizing the opponents, and it's working out wonderfully. You need proper communication for this sort of thing to work, but they're pulling it off. Trigger and Clem will be forced to go for an attack here at some point. They will have to try and force that engagement. Just make a good army and hope for the best. In the meantime, though, there's been so much money coming in as well on the other side of the map. Another Nexus is now building all the way up north. Yeah, this may just be the opportunity. I think you need to go. I don't think you can really go back every time the Phoenixes swoop in. Because the Phoenixes will swoop in and then still be home in time for the defense as well. There's a lot of energy available on those units. Yeah, Phoenixes are good, man. It's funny how the unit is so uncommon in 1v1 these days, but in 2v2 it seems to be the most overpowered thing. Isn't that interesting? And once more, that entire army is distracted. Spirit moves in. It's the classic 1-2 punch. We've seen it 3 times now in this one game. Clem and Trigger still not quite prepared for it. There's more siege tanks coming up, but once more, they're not sieged up in the right position. Men with gun trying to run in. Phoenix is coming in around the site. GG, though, gets cold. Clem and Trigger are never gonna get the engagement that they were hoping for since the very beginning of the game. They wanted to go for the all-out assault towards the other side of the map. But, well, MaxPax and Spirit have simply harassed them to death. GG, very fun series.